Shabbat Shalom. Let's begin with the melody. Yai dai 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 dai. Yada dai 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 yada dai dai. Yai dai 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 dai. Yada dai 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 yada dai dai. I will build this world with love. Yada dai 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 yada dai dai. You will build this world with love. Yada dai 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 dai. And when we build this world with love, yada dai 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 yada dai dai. God will build this world with love. Yada dai 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 yada dai dai. Yada dai 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 dai. Yada dai 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 yada dai dai. Yada dai 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 dai. Yada dai 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 yada dai dai. I will build this world with love. Yada dai 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 yada dai dai. And you will build this world with love. Yada dai 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 yada dai dai. And when we build this world with love, yada dai 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 yada dai dai, then God will build this world with love. Yada dai 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 yada dai dai. Yada dai 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 dai. Yada dai 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 yada dai dai. A friend of mine, Torah Stark, and some of you have met Torah because she's one of the contributing singers to the Alabama Virtual Havdalah, taught me this song, and it occurred to me that I had learned this song once years ago from a colleague, Rabbi Menachem Creditor, and he composed it, you might say. What a message can be conveyed with love and with heart. What a powerful message can be conveyed with singing. And one person composes a song and sings it and shares it with someone, sings it and shares it with someone, and it goes out into the world. And you and I can be transformed. And now we're going to put on a talis. If you have a talis, you're invited to join with me. The last few words, Asher kedishanu b'mitzvotav b'tzivanu lahit a-teif b'tzitzit. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu litatef b'tzitzit. And this morning we begin with the Matovu on page number 101. The Matovu on page 101, if you have the Siddur. Matovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkanotecha Yisrael. Matovu ohalecha Yaakov Mishkanotecha Yisrael. Once more. Matovu ohalecha Yaakov Mishkanotecha Yisrael. How beautiful are your tents, your dwelling places, Jacob, Israel. Your tent, your home, has joined in with all the tents, all the homes of the nation of Israel scattered across our land and beyond. This morning we received an indication that somebody is joining us from the Ukraine. How amazing is that? That Jewish people from all over the world can be joined together in song, in prayer, in Torah study, with a sense of presence. And now we begin with the early morning blessings on page 103. And if you're so inclined, you're invited to rise. The past year or so, I've taken to interpreting the opening sentence in a slightly different way. Typically, the first blessing we recite after we're dressed and ready to start our morning prayers. But I've been pausing and I've been listening, because the first blessing speaks of, blessed are you, God, who has given the ability to the rooster to differentiate between day and night. And I don't live anywhere near a rooster, but I do live in a neighborhood where I hear birds singing. And so I don't say this blessing until I first paused and listened. And this morning I'm hearing a number of different bird calls. And I center myself in the world with sound. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lasech v'ivina lahavchin ben yom uvein laila. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam sha'asani b'tzalmo. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam sha'asani ben chorin. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam sha'asani Yisrael. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokeach ivrim. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam malbish arumim. Top of page 104. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokef kefufim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam rokah haaretz al hamoyim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Hamechin mitzadei gaver. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam sha'asa li kol tzarki. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ozer Yisrael b'gevura. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam oter Yisrael b'tif'ara. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hanoten la'ohev koach. Today and every day, may you look upon us, God, and may all who see us look upon us with eyes filled with kindness, love, and compassion. Does it really matter how other people look at you and me in a given day? Do you and I care how somebody looks at us? Perhaps, perhaps not. But I don't think that's what this bracha is talking about. I think this bracha is talking about something else. When a person looks at somebody else, just in an average walking around the world manner, that's one element. But when somebody looks at you or me and brings to mind a sense of animosity or hostility, which could lead to targeting and worse, even behavior, that's now in a new realm of experience. Maybe that's what we're trying to see here, trying to set in motion, that people see one another, and even if people are different, not with suspicion, but instead with a sense of openness of the eye. And in our world in which we dwell today, that is ever more necessary. May our eyes be open upon people, and even if they are different and people we do not know, let us curb that inclination to be suspicious and even hostile. Baruch atah Adonai Yisrael. The Psalm for Shabbat on page 112 Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat on page 112. Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat Tov lehodot l'Adonai Ulezamer l'shimcha elyon Ulezamer l'shimcha elyon Lahagid baboker chasdecha Ve'emunatecha balelot Alei asor v'alei navel Alei higayon bechinor Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat Tov lodot l'Adonai Ulezamer l'shimcha elyon Ulezamer l'shimcha elyon Ki simachta Adonai b'fa'alecha B'maaseh yadecha aranen Magalo ma'asecha Adonai Ma'od amakum machshavotecha Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat Tov lodot l'Adonai Ulezamer l'shimcha elyon Ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. On the English side, the arrogant do not understand, the fool does not comprehend this, the wicked flourish like grass, and every evildoer blossoms, only to be destroyed forever. But you, Adonai, are exalted for all time. Surely your enemies will perish. All who commit evil will be scattered. As a wild bull raises up its horn, you raised my head high, anointed it with fresh oil. As my enemies gather against me, my gaze remains steady. For my eyes listen and hear. The righteous flourish like the date palm, thrive like a cedar in Lebanon, planted in the house of Adonai, they flourish in Argod's courtyards. In old age they remain fruitful, still fresh and bountiful, proclaiming, Adonai is upright, my rock in whom there is no flaw. La'agid ki yesh Adonai tzur v'lo la'tabo. Baruch She'amar on page 122 begins with the words Baruch She'amar, blessed is the one who spoke, v'haya ha'olam, and the world came into being. And this should take us back in our minds to Bereshit, the book of creation, the book of Genesis. And God says, Yehi or, let there be light. But it's much more than that, because the continuation of the creation also emerges from speech. God says, let the earth be separated from the water, let the waters be collected here, the oceans, let the earth bring forth vegetation, and let animals come forth. And every aspect of creation unfurls in sequence, in precision, and in beauty, as a function of God's speech. And all that, I believe, is conveyed in this opening phrase of Baruch She'amar. How do you and I place ourselves within the precision and the beauty of the world in which we live? That's up to us. That's not for God. That's for you and me to decide how to put ourselves into the world and how to contribute to the world with beauty and precision. Baruch She'amar v'haya ha'olam Baruch Hu Baruch Oseh v'reshit Baruch Omer v'oseh Baruch Ozer u'mekayim Baruch Merachem al haaretz Baruch Merachem al habriot Baruch Mishalem Sachar Tov Lireav Baruch Chaylad V'Kayom Lo Netzach Baruch Podeh U'Matzil Baruch Shemo. We will celebrate you, Adonai our God, with praise and song, We will extol, acclaim, and glorify you, honoring your name and declaring that you are our sovereign God, the singular one who gives life to the world, the sovereign who is praised and glorified forever and ever. This is your great name, Baruch atah Adonai, sovereign, celebrated with songs of praise. Yachich Olamim, Melech Mishbachim for Adei Shmo Agadol, Baruch atah Adonai, Melech Malabati Shpachot. Ashrei is on page 136. Ashrei is a psalm. We have 150 psalms in the Bible, but Ashrei is actually a composition. Because if you were to look at the Bible and open the book of Psalms, you'd find the first two lines are over here, and then the Aramimcha part is over here, and then the Tehillat and Va'anachnu part is over here. We actually have elements of three different psalms stitched together. Why? I don't know. Evidently, the initiators of the prayer service about 2,000 years ago saw something compelling about the first two lines, which we call Ashrei, the middle part, which is Psalm 144, and then the last two lines, which is Psalm 145, and they wove them together. But it's this piece, this composition, composed of elements of three different psalms, that has held the attention and the heart of the Jewish worshiper for 2,000 years. And we say Ashrei 3 times a day. Twice every morning, at the beginning of the morning service and at the end of the morning service, and also in the afternoon service. Here in our shul, I abbreviate our Shabbat morning service. In a more traditional synagogue, the Ashrei is recited twice in the morning Saturday morning service. Why? Perhaps it's that pursuit of Ashrei, of a sense of internal satisfaction, contentment, knowing that we are part of something much greater than ourselves. Ashrei. Until the Zion line, Zocher. Ashrei Yeshvei Veitecha, Od Yalucha Selah, Ashrei Ham Shekachalo, Ashrei Ham Sharonoi Elov, Tehillah LeDavid, Aromim Chalohai HaMelech, Va'avarcha Shimcha Leolam Voed, B'chol Yom Avarcheko, Va'ahalala Shimcha Leolam Voed, Gadol Adonai Molol Me'od, V'lig Dulato Ein Cheker, Dor L'dor Yishabach Masecha, U'gevurotecha Yagidu, Hadar Kavod Hodecha, V'divrei Niflotecha Asicha, Ve'ezuz Norotecha Yomeru, U'gedul Atecha Asaprano, Zecher Rav Tuvacha Yabiu, V'tzid Katecha Yiranenu. At the bottom, Tilat Adonai Yidaber Pi, V'voreh Kol Basar Shem Kachel Olam Voed, V'anachnu Nevarech Yah Me'ata V'ad Olam. Hallelujah. We're slowly working our way through the Ashrei because some people may not have a Siddur, and so we're learning by rote. The Zion line begins with Zecher, which comes from the word Zocher, and many of us know that the word Zocher means to remember. So as we're moving into the Ashrei, seeking a sense of being happy, not happy birthday happy, but contentment and balance and recognition that we are part of the beauty of the people of Israel. We're asking God to remember us. That's the Zecher line. And now on page 141, the top of the page. Hallelujah, 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 El Bekacho, hallelujah, Birki Yauzo, hallelujah, Vigvoratav, hallelujah, Kerov Gulo, Yalala, 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 Hallelujah, B'tek HaShofar, Hallelujah, B'neva V'chinar, Hallelujah, B'tov U'machol, Hallelujah, B'minim V'ugav, Yalala, 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 Hallelujah, B'tziltzilei Shema, Hallelujah, B'tziltzilei Shua, Kol Anshama, Hallelujah, Hallelujah, Yalala, 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 Kol Anshama, Hallelujah, Hallelujah, Kol Anshama, Hallelujah, Hallelujah. Your soul is now calling out to God. And your soul is calling out to God in its own way, as is the person next to you, and the next person, and the other, and all those joined in with us, and all those who are not online with us, but everywhere else. Every soul is calling out to God. I wonder how often you and I stop and try to attend to the soul, the inner voice within us, which operates in a different way, but is yet part of us. Can you hear your own soul calling out to God? Halavai. Maybe this Shabbos you and I will hear, each one, her or his own soul, as it calls out to God. Yishtabach, on page number 148. Yishtabach is on page 148. The concluding bracha of what's known as the Psukei Zimra, the preliminary section of the service. It's verses of song, I should say. And Yishtabach concludes this with a bracha, and then the Chatzi Kaddish, and then Shacharit, the beginning of the morning service. Yishtabach Shimcha Lo Ad Malkeinu Ha'el HaMelech Hagadol Ve'akadosh B'Shamayim V'Aretz Ki Lecha Noe Adonai Eloheinu Ve'Eloi Avotenu Ve'imotenu Shir Ushvacha Halel V'Zimra Ozu Memshala Netzach Gedula Ugvura Tila V'Tiferet Kedusha U'Malchut Brachot V'Arot Metav Olam Baruch Atah Adonai El Melech Batish Bachot El Odot Adonai Niflot Habocher B'Shirei Zimra Melech El Cheolamim. Amen. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. Amen. Ba'alma divrach hirtei v'melech malchutei b'chayechon v'yom echon v'chayerecho be'Yisrael ba'gala v'zman kariv imru. Amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach la'olam olamei olmaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramah v'yinaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei kedusha brechu leila min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiram v'yom v'imro. Amen. Wherever you are, please rise. The Borchu, page 149 and 150. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMavorach. Baruch Adonai HaMavorach Le'olam V'ed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olam Yotzer Or Vorech Choshech Oseh Shalom Uvarei Et HaKol. Blessed are you, God, our God, sovereign of time and space, forming light and creating darkness, bringing harmony while creating all. We are seated. The hope of that little blessing, hope and peace, is that peace needs to be as essential and is as essential within the world as light and dark itself. So light and dark, God made that. Sun, moon, stars, system of time. But peace, that's our responsibility. So this bracha charges us to bring peace into the world. In effect, we're partners with God. When we bring peace into the world, and peace becomes as much of the integrated wholeness of the universe as light and dark, then this bracha will be fulfilled. On page 154, the first paragraph, it's the second bracha leading up to the Shema, and then the Shema in just a moment. You've loved us deeply, Adonai our God, and showered us with boundless compassion. Avinu Malkeinu, for the sake of our ancestors who trusted in you, and to whom you taught the laws of life, so may you be gracious to us and instruct us. Kind Creator, have compassion for us. Open our hearts so that we may understand, and with love discern, hear, and study. Observe, perform, and fulfill all the teachings of your Torah with love. Enlighten our eyes with your Torah. Attach our hearts to your mitzvot. Unify our hearts to love and revere your name, so that we never lose hope. As we trust in your great, holy, awe-inspiring name, we will delight and rejoice in your deliverance. Those with talit are invited to gather the four tzitziot, the four corners together. In order to be ready for the Shema, we need to reach out to each other. Remember, the Shema is Shema Yisrael, listen, O Israel, hear each other. So when we gather each other in, which is what we're doing symbolically with the tzitziot, we're preparing for the Shema. But on a more concrete level, in our daily lives, we need to reach out to our fellow Jewish people and bring them in some way, especially in these times of isolation. The bottom of 154 on the Hebrew side. V'havi'enu l'shalom me'arba kanfot haaretz v'tolichenu komemiyot le'artzenu ki el poel yeshuot atam Uvanu v'acharta mikolam v'lashon v'keraftanu l'shimcha hagadol selah be'emet lahodot lecha ol yachercha b'yahava baruch atah Adonai habocher b'amo Yisrael b'yahava. 155. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Ve'avta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavacha yom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'beitecha u'v'lechtecha v'aderech u'v'shachbecha v'kumecha u'kishartam la'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha u'ktavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'v'sharecha. The middle of 156, the third paragraph of the Shema. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe lemor daber el bnei Yisrael v'amarta lehem v'yasu lehem tzitzit al kanfei vigdehem ledorotam v'natnu al tzitzit hakanaf petil techelet v'yalachem letzitzit Uritem oto, uschartem et kol mitzvot Adonai, v'asitem otam v'lo tatoro acharei levavchem v'acharei einechem, asher atem zonim achareihem, l'man tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai, v'hitem kedoshim le'elohechem, ani Adonai Elohechem, Asher otzeiti etchem meretz Mitzrayim liyot lachem le'Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem emet. On page 157 on the English side, the last two stanzas both begin with the word truly, underscoring the Hebrew term emet or emes, which is all over this paragraph. And emes or emet means true or truthful or truly as an adverb. It underscores the relationship between God and all of us, a relationship derived from truth. Truly, you are the ruler of your people, a mighty sovereign who takes up their cause. Truly, you were at the beginning and you will be at the end. Aside from you, we have no ruler who can redeem and deliver. On page 158, the first red arrow down from the top of the page, Tehilot. Tehilot le'el elyon Baruch hu u'mavarach Moshe u'Miriam u'vnei Yisrael L'cha anu shira b'simcha rabba v'yamru chulam Mi chamocha bo'elim Adonai Mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh Naratilot osefele Shira Chadasha Shibachu Geulim L'shimcha Sefat Hayom Yachad Kulam Hodu V'imlechu V'yamro Adonai Yimloch L'olam Va'ed Tzur Yisrael Kuma B'Yezrat Yisrael V'dech Numecha Yehuda V'Yisrael Go Aleinu Adonai Tzvot Shemo Kedosh Yisrael. You're asked to rise for the Amida. We begin aloud on page 159 and 160. And thereafter, a few moments of silent private prayer. The traditional text concludes on page 166, and you might consider some of the prayers from pages 161 through 166 silently, or you might compile your own prayers. But as you're singing along with all of us for the preliminary section of the Amidah, or as you are compiling your own private prayer, see yourself as standing next to a minyan. In your own mind, collect enough people in your own household to make a minyan in your house. And as they're whispering their prayers, you can almost hear the sound of their own whispers. And that's what we're missing right now by being isolated. So listen to the whisper of someone else's prayer who's not next to you. We've been practicing our steps, 3 small steps. And we begin, Adonai Sefatai Tiftach Ufi Yagi Tilatecha. That's the introduction. So again, beginning on pages 159 and 160. Adonai Sefatai Tiftach Ufi Yagi Tilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor V'Anora El Elyon Gamel Chasadim Tovim Vekonei HaKol V'Zocher Chastei Avot V'Imahot Umevi Goel Livnei V'Nehem Laman Shemo B'Yava Melech Ozer Ufokedu Moshia Umagen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Abraham Uvoked Sarah Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechaye Meitim Atah Rav Lahoshia Mashiv Haruach Merit Hagashem Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed Mechaye Meitim Berachamim Rabim Samech Noflim Berofei Cholim O Matir Asurim, O Mekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Micha Mocha Bal Gevurot, O Medal Melach, Melech Memit, O Mechaye, O Matzmiach Yeshua, V'nemon Atalachayot Meitim, Baruch atah Adonai Mechayei HaMeitim. And in just a moment, Neil Sass joins us for the Kaddish, the full Kaddish. It's found on page 167, Kaddish Shalem, page 167.
Iskadal, Iskadashime, Rabal, Bialmo, Dibra, Furisavia, Makusavika, Konab Yamakonika, Yedika Basis Roa, Baka, Always Makori, Yamaru, May, Yeheshme, Rabal, Magora, the Ola Malome, Maya. Yisparakvi, Yistabakvi, Yispoarvis, Romavius, Nasavius, Adarvis, Alevis, Alos, Made the Kudashop, Reachu, Lay Lam, and Cobra Casa, Vashirasa, Tuspakasa, Vadecamasa, Dami, Rumbi, Homovi, Yamru, Amen. Tiscabel, Salosa, Hundus, Ahon, Takobi, Yisrael, Kadam, Avu, Hon, Tibismai, Yamaru, Amen. Yeheslam, Rabba, Menshemai, Chayim, Alen of Yaka, Yisrael, Yamaru, Amen. O Seshalom, Bimramov, Hu Yaseshalom, Alen of Yaka, Yisrael, Yamaru, Amen.
And now we begin our Torah service. The Torah service begins with the Vayhi bin Soah. If you're so able, please rise in your own home. The Ark is open to Vayhi bin Soah in our Siddur on page 168, Vayhi bin Soah. Vayhi bin Soah Haaron, Vayomer Moshe, Kuma Adonai, Ve'afutzu oivecha, Ve'anusu misanecha, Mipanecha, Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, Ki mitzion Tetzei Torah, Udavar Adonai, Mirushalayim, Baruch Shenatan, Torah, Torah, Baruch Shenatan, Torah, Torah, La'amo Yisrael, B'kedushato. The Shema and the Echad in a moment on page 171. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonai Kadosh Shemo. Gadol Adonai Tin Ramama Shmo Yaktav Echad Adonai Agedul Avagevora Vatiferet Vehanetzach Vehahod Kichol Bashamayim Uvaretz Kichol Bashamayim Uvaretz Adonai Amam Lachav Yamin Aseh L'chol Rosh Romemo Romemo Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishtachavo Ve'ishtachavo Le'adam Raglav Kadoshu Romemo Romemo Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishtachavo Ve'ishtachavo Lehar Kodsho Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Thank you, David. You see that we have two Sifrei Torah here before us, and I'll explain that in just a few moments. For now, if you have a Chumash, the Torah reading will begin on page 529, page 529. If you have a Tanakh, but not our Chumash, it's Exodus chapter number 31, Exodus chapter 31, verse 16, 17, 18, and then a little bit into chapter number 32. So chapter 31, 16, 17, 18, and then to chapter 32. The name of the parsha is Ki Tisa. And Ki Tisa, if you grew up learning Hebrew with an Ashkenazic accent, you say Kisisa. Ki Tisa, or Kisisa, is very famous because it contains the episode of the golden idol in the shape of a young cow, a calf, you might say. Moses is on Sinai. He's still there, and he's about to come down with the 2 stone tablets and the 10 words. In Hebrew, they're called Aser HaDibrot, the 10 words, not the commandments. That's an English mistranslation. It comes in much later. So the 10 words are inscribed on these 2 stone plaques, and Moses is going to come down. But the people of Israel are afraid that he has disappeared because he seems to have not been here yet, and it seems as if a long time has passed. And so they pressured Aaron to build something, a tangible that they could look at and rely on and believe in. And Moses comes down and he sees them worshiping this calf, this idol, and he's filled with anger. He's just enraged, and he shatters the 2 stone tablets, the first set. And that's described in Ki Tisa. That's the famous scene. And of course, anybody who remembers that scene understands how important it is, because it's a turning point. But I want to back up prior to that scene. And that's where we are here on page 529, 31, verse 16 and 17. And you might recognize this. We'll sing it with a melody that's popular. V'shamro v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat beini u'bein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam, and so on. That melody, by the way, was composed by a conservative Rabbi Moshe Rothblum. Rabbi Moshe Rothblum at a well-known conservative synagogue in Los Angeles. It's actually in the valley. The name of the synagogue is Adat Ariel, and he composed it, I'm guessing, about 40 some odd years ago or so. And our friends Josh Eisen and Danielle Eisen, who are singing with us on occasional Shabbat known as Shir Shabbat, shared with me, Josh grew up learning a lot of his Jewish music from Rabbi Moshe Rothblum. So anyway, that little song that you and I often sing, sometimes on Friday night, the Saturday morning Kiddush, if you will, is part of the Friday night service, and it doesn't have to be done with that melody. It can be done with any melody. It's the Friday night evening service just before the Amidah. And what it means is, all of you people of Israel come together and observe Shabbat. And now you say, oh, now I understand why it's the Friday evening service just before the Amidah. It's also in the Saturday morning, Shabbat morning Amidah, Vishamru. And it comes from this week's Torah reading. And I'm pointing it out because having Shabbat as a communal experience is as essential as any other element, perhaps more, for the perpetuation of Jewish identity. And it's very striking to me that on the heels of the description of this galvanizing feature, observance of Shabbat together, the people of Israel drift apart. They've lost faith in themselves, in Moses, and entirely in God. And they're relying on something, a physical, a tangible, an item, as opposed upon an inner spiritual force and centering. It's no accident that when they lose a sense of Vishamru, of Shabbat, the golden calf episode occurs. And now just reading a little bit of the Torah reading itself. It's verses number 18 into chapter number 32. Vayitenu Moshe kachalato ledaber ito bar Sinai shnei luchot haidut luchot even ktuvim etvalim v'aram kivoshesh Moshe l'redim min hahar v'kahel ha'am al Aharon v'yimru elav Kuma Seilanu Elohim Asher Chulafaneinu Kize Moshe Haish Asher Helanu Meretz Mitzrayim Lo Yadanu Mehayalo Vayomer Aleim Aaron Parkunis Me'azahav Asher Boznei Nishachem Bnechem B'bnotechem B'viyu Elai Veid Parku Kolam Etnis Me'azahav Asher Boznehem Vayivu El Aharon. So Aaron, the brother of Moses, is at the mountain's base along with the people of Israel, and the ringleaders are pressuring Aaron, we need something tangible. And he says, okay. And there's this interesting commentary, it's a midrash in the Talmud, that says that Aaron didn't really think the people of Israel were going to go through with this. He said, in effect, if you want a golden something, you've got to give me the gold, the earrings and the rings and some of the baubles that you took with you from Egypt when you left Egypt a year ago. It's been about a year. And he doesn't think that they're going to give freely these gifts, but he's surprised, according to this commentary. And the people brought their earrings and their baubles, and he had all this stuff, and he couldn't say no because he had opened the door. And then he fashioned the golden calf. And so my thinking is, when a leader sees that people are floundering, the true leader is not going to open a door which is going to lead them to further weakness and dissolution. The true leader is going to see them, meet them where they are, and offer them guidance and hope and encouragement and strength. We have 2 Torahs out today. This is a second Torah. We're not going to read from the second Torah because I have abbreviated the services since we are online. Just a little reminder. We are, as you know, approaching the holiday of Pesach, the holiday of Passover. And as we approach the holiday of Passover, we have 4 very specific Shabbats. And on each of these 4 special Shabbats, an additional Torah reading is read. And today is Shabbat Parah. The reading comes from the book of Numbers. Parah speaks of purity. And in the days when the temple was operational, people wanted to be pure in order to come to Jerusalem and to celebrate Pesach, and they eat the lamb all together. And hundreds of thousands of Jews from all over Israel would travel to Yerushalayim and have Pesach in Jerusalem. It was a pilgrimage holiday. That's what it's called, a pilgrimage festival. And so the holiday of Pesach needs purity. And therefore this Torah reading was established in our cycle as a way of reminding all the people in the communities, wherever they might be, we need to get ready mentally to prepare ourselves by going to the mikvah and preparing our needs and our materials and our supplies to go to Jerusalem to be ready for the holiday of Pesach in Jerusalem. And that's why we have the second Torah out today. At this point, pardon me for a moment. We are going to offer a Misha Berach, a prayer of healing for those who are ill in our community. And we have a list of names here. If you know of someone who's ill, please mention that person's name at this time. Misha Berach Avtenu Avram, Yitzchak Yaakov, Yimtenu Sarav Karechav Aleah, Huvrech Pei Kol Cholim Elevze Kolel Et, Chana Sarba Peshalea, Avram Yehuda Ben Gisha, Bet De Palma, LaClaudia Thomas, Sprinza Bat Bashi, Miriam Bat Bashi, Louis Rodriguez, Shoshana Bat Millie, Yaakov Aron Bat Chana, Roxanne Anthony, Yafa Bat Rivka, Kayla Bat Shoshana, Avi Moshe ben Mindel, Tom Bastoni, Pat Cockrell, George Patinos, Mordechai ben Zelda, Minya Elka bat Sarah, Anthony Arnold, Velvo ben Root, Elalea bat Aviva, Vicky bat Cecilia, Zorch ben Leah, Moshe Aharon ben Fega. Amen. Almighty God, as you have blessed our mothers and our fathers, reach forward and bless all of these people who are known to you and remembered in our hearts, bringing forth your own touch of healing, of power, of strength, of hope for the future. Help each and every one of these people to stand up and to walk forward into a new future, beginning this week, beginning this Shabbat. Bring them strength of mind, of body, of spirit. Place your heavenly touch, O God, upon and within each and every one of our loved ones. Sustain the doctors and the nurses, the caregivers, the orderlies, the CNAs, and everyone involved now across our land as they uplift and tend so many patients who are afflicted. Favor them with your presence. Favor them with your promise and your resolve, O God. Stabilize them that they have the capacity to offer compassion and support and healing for all who are ill. On this day, hear the prayer of all of your people, Israel, across this land and across this world. Take hold of these prayers, heed them, and bring us healing and shalom. And we all say, Amen. Pardon me. Pardon me. I apologize, I have something in my throat. Now lifting the Torah for the Hagbah. Torah tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Torah tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Torah tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Torah tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 tziva lanu Moshe. Thank you. On page 177, a prayer for our nation at the bottom of the page. May it be your will that our land be a blessing to all who dwell on earth, and may you cause all peoples to dwell in friendship and freedom. Speedily fulfill the vision of your prophets. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more. For all of them, from the least of them to the greatest, shall know me, and let us say, Amen. The prayer at the top of page 178 for Israel. Avinu Shabashamayim, Tzur Yisrael v'Goalo, Barech et Medinat Yisrael, Reshit Tzmichat Geulatenu. Avinu Shabashamayim, stronghold and redeemer of the people Israel, bless the state of Israel, the beginning of our redemption. Shield it with your love, spread over it the shelter of your peace. Guide its leaders and advisors with your light and your truth. Help them with your good counsel. Strengthen the hands of those who defend our holy land. Deliver them. Crown their efforts with triumph. Bless the land with peace and its inhabitants with lasting joy. And let us say, Amen. The Eitz Chaim on page 184. Eitz Chaim hi lama chazikim ba v'tomcheha meushar deracheha darchei noam v'chol netivoteha shalom. Hashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva Chadesh Chadesh Yameinu Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem. We remain standing. En Keloheinu on page 204. En Keloheinu, En Kadonenu, En Kemalkeinu, En Kemoshienu, Micheloheinu, Michadonenu, Michemalkeinu, Michmoshienu, Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Malkeinu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu. Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu, Atahu Shekatiro Avotenu, Lefanecha it K'dot Hasamim. The Aleinu is on page 205. Page 205, Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol latet gdula liotzer breshit shelo asanu k'goyei ha'aratzot velo samanu k'mishpachot adama shelo sam chelkeinu kahem v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam v'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim Lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu shehu noteh shamayim v'yoser haaretz u'moshav yekaro b'shamayim mimal u'shchinatu zo v'gavei meromim hu Eloheinu einod Emet Malkeinu Evezulato Kakatuv B'Torato V'yodata Yom V'ashevota Elavavecha Ki Adonai Huwa Elohim B'shamayim mimal V'yal haaretz mitachot einod. Kakatu b'toratecha, Adonai yimloch le'olam bo'ed, v'nemar v'haya Adonai le'melech al kol haaretz, bayom hahu, Yihyeh Adonai echad, U'shemol echad. You may be seated. Prior to the Kaddish, the mourner's Kaddish, I want to just take another moment or two. We're in Shabbat Parah, and some of you might have the Chumash before you, and the Haftorah that is associated with this Shabbat is on page 1287, 1288, emerging from Yechezkel, Ezekiel. Ezekiel is a prophet. Ezekiel is also a Kohen. So when the tradition is speaking of the need for people to be pure in preparation of the holiday of Pesach, Ezekiel takes hold of that message. In the ancient days, purity meant going to the mikvah. If you had come in contact with a creepy crawly rodent or a lizard or a creepy crawly animal, it meant washing your clothes. It meant staying in a certain mental frame of preparation and clarity and focus, in order that when you came to the temple to do the animal offering or the sacrifice or the produce offering, you were in a certain mindset. And then afterwards, you and your family had your meal and you celebrated. That's Pesach in the days of the Torah. But Ezekiel wants to go one step further. And the sentence that takes hold of me is on page 1288. It's sentence 25, it's sentence 26. Sentence 25, this is Ezekiel speaking on behalf of God. God says, I will sprinkle pure water upon you and you shall be pure. I will purify you from all of your impurities. And that's referring to the actual process of being purified in the ancient times. Sprinkled water and you are pure. But now, the next step, and this is much more symbolic and much more allegorical. Number 26, this is God speaking through Ezekiel. And I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit into you. I will remove the heart of stone from your body and give you a heart of flesh. I will remove a heart of stone and give you a new pure heart of flesh within your body. And I think that's what Ezekiel is trying to convey to his colleagues, people who are still trying to figure out how to understand the performances of temple ceremonies, but they are many centuries after Moses. And you and I obviously have nowhere been near any kind of a functioning temple because it's been gone for 2,000 years. But the message is still very important for us as we are approaching the holiday of Pesach, a holiday which is defined by being part of a community, and we've been separated from each other for a year now. How do we understand the method of preparing ourselves for this holiday which defines us as Jews? We need to see ourselves as being touched by God. And God is as close as each and every one of us feels within his or her own heart. And God is placing a touch upon us and saying, your heart is now ready and prepared for putting yourself in the proper frame of reference of being people who are no longer enslaved and people who are walking forward into a future. And you and I as Jews are going to navigate our current very painful experiences of being isolated because we're walking forward into a future. It's a future of promise. And each and every one of us can gain the strength and the knowledge that God is close to us and supportive of us. And also, God sees us in the honesty of who we are as individuals. May we take hold of this message of having a new heart of flesh placed within us. And as we prepare in some way for the holiday of Pesach, may we reach out to other Jewish people who are also still set apart. And may we devise a method of coming close, whether wearing masks and standing more than 6 feet apart from somebody on a visit, or making phone calls, or a video connection. May we remind each other that every single Jew is responsible for every other Jew. When we remind each other and act upon that, then we have become pure. We're thinking about our loved ones, our family members who have died at this season, and we as a shul mark the following yortzites. And if you know of someone who's recently died, please mention that person's name aloud in your own home as those marking Kaddish rise at this time. We all remember Brian Malkov, Bertha Cohen, Philip Plotka, Jacob Elias, Rosalie Ross, Judge Alan Lerner, Sarah Sanders, Jeanette Beatrice Weiner, Cecile Olinsky Mishkin, Mendel Greenberg, Howard Lee Unger, Tamara Olinsky, Ellis Lupin, Meyer Mitchell, Reverend Simon Chasson, Ida Lubell, Leah Gollum, Miriam Schwartz, Lester Halprin, Adolf Kaplan, Trudy Halprin, Isidore Berman, Isaac Schwartz, Lena Zuckerman, Joseph Weber, Helen Reiner, Samuel Ratner, Nathan Kahn, Mac Al Stone, Francis Lefkowitz, Rebecca Olinsky, and recently we lost Ronnie Hoffman, Madeline Eplin, Leonard Capiluto. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. Amen. Be'olma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'v'zman karif v'yimeru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach la'olam u'la'olmei olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shmei dekudusha b'rechu la'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiran ba'olma v'yimeru. Amen. Yehi shalama rabba min shemaya v'chayim Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imeru. Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imeru. Amen. May you all know that you are loved and deeply cared for. May you have shalom. Adon Olam is on page 211. We'll be making Kiddush and Amotzi in a few minutes, so I hope that you have a glass of wine and a bit of challah or bread at the ready for Kiddush and Amotzi. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Li'ei Nasa V'chefto Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra V'yachare Kichlo Takol Levado Yimloch Nora Ve'hu Haya Ve'hu Hove Ve'hu Yiyeh B'tifara Ve'hu Echad V'yein Sheni Lo Hamshilo Lahachbira B'li Reshit B'li Tachlit V'lo Oz V'hamisra Ve'hu Eli V'chai Goali V'tzor Chevli B'yet Tzara Ve'hu Nisi Umanosli Menat Kosi B'yom Ekra B'yado Avkid Ruchi B'yet Ishan V'yaira V'imruchi Gaviyati Adonai Li V'lo Iram. Before Kiddush and Amotzi, reminders, it's a pretty day. I'd love to see you stop by Shul. I'll be here for the next hour under the front portico. Come visit a little bit until 12:30 here, just today, just to visit a little bit. We'll wear a mask. We'll be separated outside, but just to see each other. It's a pretty day. Come on over to Shul for a little bit. Reminders, Havdalah tonight on Zoom at 7 o'clock. Sunday morning, Sunday school, of course, on Zoom for the children. Monday, Tanakh study is on Zoom, and story time for the toddlers, Monday afternoon from 5:30 to 6 is on Zoom. Tuesday, the adult Hebrew is on Zoom, 3 to 3:45. If you don't know what I'm talking about and you want to learn basic reading Hebrew, contact me and I can catch you up because we've only had 2 lessons so far. The Spirit series continues on Tuesday, 5 to 5:30. The topic is, what takes hold of you, the positives or the negatives? And next Friday, Zoom, Shir Shabbat, not YouTube, Zoom. We'll see each other and we'll sing together with Danielle and Josh Eisen. Next Friday, 6 to 7 on Zoom. You'll be getting the Zoom login information this upcoming week. V'shamaro v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Lasot et ha-Shabbat L'dorotam brit olam B'nei b'nei Yisrael oti li'olam Ki sheishet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim v'et haaretz Uvayom hashvi shavad vaynafash. God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, and it's described in this week's Torah reading. And you and I can bring time to a new level, a new quality of holiness by our behavior and our focus. Savrei Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Good Shabbos. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for bringing an element of your connectedness to God into my life, into life here. David Smith was helping us so much with the equipment and the live streaming and so forth. I hope to see you soon, maybe in just a few minutes under the portico, or tonight on Zoom Havdalah, or in some other way. May you be blessed with a shalom. Good Shabbos.